What terrified 9 experienced hikers so much that they cut their own tent open from the inside and ran barefoot into the freezing snow to die? Imagine a scene of absolute frozen horror. It is February 1959, the Ural Mountains in the Soviet Union. A search party is looking for a group of missing students. They find their tent on the slope of a mountain that the local Mansi tribe calls Kholat Syakhl, the Dead Mountain. The tent is half collapsed and covered in snow. But when the investigators look closer, they find something that makes no sense. The tent wasn't opened from the outside, it was slashed open from the inside. A knife had been used to cut through the fabric in a desperate panic. Whatever was inside that tent, the hikers wanted to get away from it instantly. They didn't even take time to put on their shoes. Footprints found in the snow show that 9 people ran down the mountain in -30-degree weather wearing only socks, or sometimes just one shoe. They left behind their warm clothes, their food, their maps, and their knives. They ran into the darkness of the forest, never to return. When their bodies were finally found, the mystery only deepened. Some had died of hypothermia, but others had injuries that looked like they had been hit by a truck. Crushed skulls, shattered ribs, but, and this is the strangest part, there were no external bruises. It was as if they had been crushed by an immense pressure. One woman was missing her eyes, another was missing her tongue, and when the investigators checked their clothes with a Geiger counter, the device screamed. Their clothes were radioactive. This is the true story of the Dyatlov Pass Incident, the most terrifying unsolved mystery of the 20th century. To understand this tragedy, we have to go back to the beginning. It started as an adventure. Igor Dyatlov, a 23-year-old engineering student, led a group of friends on a skiing expedition across the northern Urals. Originally, there were 10 hikers. The 10th man was Yuri Yudin, but just days before the incident, Yuri fell ill with joint pain and was forced to turn back. He was heartbroken to leave his friends. He hugged them goodbye, not knowing that he was hugging walking ghosts. Yuri would be the only one to survive. Years later, he famously said, "If I could ask God just one question, it would be, what really happened to my friends that night?" The remaining 9 continued. They were not amateurs. They were grade 2 hikers, training for the highest certification in the Soviet Union. They were young, strong, and tough. They had a camera with them, and the photos they took show them laughing, hugging, and playing music. They look happy, they look alive. On January 27th, they began their trek. The mood was high. They wrote in their diaries about the cold, the beautiful scenery, and the local Mansi people. But on February 1st, the weather turned. A snowstorm forced them to camp on the exposed slope of Kholat Syakhl. It was a dangerous place to camp, but Dyatlov probably didn't want to lose the altitude they had gained. They set up their tent around 5 p.m. They ate a cold dinner of crackers and ham. They took off their wet boots to dry them, and then the diaries stop. We don't know exactly what happened that night, but we can reconstruct the horror from the evidence. Something happened between 9:30 p.m. and 11:30 p.m. Something so sudden and terrifying that it caused 9 rational, experienced people to lose their minds. They slashed the tent and ran. They ran more than a mile down the slope towards a large cedar tree at the edge of the forest. This is where the first 2 bodies were found, Yuri Krivonishenko and Yuri Doroshenko. They were dressed only in their underwear. They had managed to start a small fire, but it wasn't enough. They had frozen to death. But here is a disturbing detail. The branches on the cedar tree were broken up to 5 meters high. This means one of them had frantically climbed the tree. What were they looking for? Or more terrifyingly, what were they trying to escape from? Were they climbing to get away from something on the ground? The investigators then found 3 more bodies: Igor Dyatlov, Zenaida Kolmogorova, and Rustem Slobodin. They were found scattered between the cedar tree and the tent. Their position suggested they were trying to crawl back to the tent. They died in poses of agony. Slobodin had a fractured skull, but it wasn't fatal. They too succumbed to the cold. At this point, the investigators thought it was a tragic case of hypothermia, but 2 months later, in May, the snow melted and they found the last 4 hikers deep in a ravine, buried under 4 meters of snow. And this is where the story turns into a nightmare. These 4, Dubinina, Zolotaryov, Thibaut Brignol, and Kolevatov had died violent deaths. Lyudmila Dubanina had 10 broken ribs. Her chest was crushed inward. Semyon Zolotaryov also had crushed ribs. Thibaut Brignol had a massive skull fracture that would have killed him instantly. Medical examiners compared the force required to cause these injuries to a car crash. Yet, there were no scratches or bruises on their skin. It was internal damage caused by a high-pressure force, and the gruesome details didn't end there. Lyudmila Dubanina was missing her tongue. It had been ripped out or dissolved. She was also missing her eyes. Zolotaryov was missing his eyes too. The horror continued even after death. At their funerals, family members reported something deeply disturbing. The bodies were not pale like normal corpses. Their skin had turned a deep brick orange color, and their hair had turned completely gray. It looked as if they had been exposed to extreme heat or radiation. The official Soviet investigation was closed abruptly. The cause of death was listed as an unknown compelling force. The files were sent to a secret archive. This secrecy birthed 1,000 theories. What killed them? Theory number 1. The avalanche. Modern science suggests a slab avalanche might have hit the tent, crushing their chests and forcing them to cut their way out. But this doesn't explain everything. There was no sign of an avalanche when the search party arrived. And why did they leave the safety of the trees to die in the open? Why was there radiation? Theory number 2. The KGB or military experiments. This is the most popular theory. Another group of hikers miles away reported seeing strange orange spheres glowing in the sky on the night of the incident. Were these missile tests? Parachute mines? Some believe the group stumbled upon a secret Soviet weapon test. The radiation found on their clothes supports this. Maybe the pressure that crushed their chests was the shockwave of a bomb. Maybe the missing eyes and tongue were due to scavenging animals. Or maybe it was something more sinister. Maybe they were murdered to keep a secret. Theory number 3. Infrasound. This is a terrifying scientific possibility. The wind blowing over the dome-shaped mountain peak could have created a specific frequency known as a Kármán vortex street. These low-frequency sound waves are inaudible to the human ear, but they vibrate the eyeballs and cause extreme panic, nausea, and a feeling of impending doom. Did the wind literally drive them insane with fear, forcing them to run from an invisible enemy? Theory number 4. The Mansi legend. The mountain was sacred to the Mansi people, but there was no sign of a struggle, no other footprints in the snow. The Mansi were peaceful. And then there is the photo. One of the last photos found on Zolotaryov's camera is blurry and dark, but some claim it shows a strange figure, a glowing man, or perhaps a Yeti, stalking them in the trees. The Dyatlov Pass incident remains a puzzle with pieces that don't fit. Why did they cut the tent? Why did they run? What crushed their bones without breaking their skin? What were the orange lights in the sky? Decades later, the Russian government reopened the case, blaming an avalanche, but the families of the victims refused to accept it. They believe the truth is still hidden in a classified file somewhere in Moscow. Today, a memorial stands on that mountain pass, listing the names of the 9 who never returned. It is a place of silence and wind. Visitors say they feel a strange unease there, a feeling of being watched. Whatever happened on the night of February 1st, 1959, left behind 9 bodies and a mystery that will never die. Was it nature? Was it the military? Or was it something else? An unknown, compelling force that we are not meant to understand. If this story kept you on the edge of your seat, make sure to like and subscribe. We venture into the darkest corners of history to find the truth. The past is full of ghosts, and we are just getting started.